Longtime subscribers of 555 Gear know that I enjoy curating a variety of content for my channel, and this reflects my approach as a hobbyist. I like being a renaissance man. And this also means that I meet a variety of fellow travelers in different areas of interest. Now, one such example is TGV at the Urban Gentry channel. He's a dedicated watch collector, and he actually is a longtime knife collector, even though he hasn't spent as much time talking about that on his channel. One of the discriminating attitudes of an enthusiast is a willingness to learn. And we've had some great conversations about urban carry and knives that would suit his environment, which is in New York City. So I'm very flattered to share with you today my recommendations for 5 knives that I would recommend for urban carry, specifically thinking of New York City, but in general that I think will be in line with his thought as he's described in his videos, and maybe give some ideas for expanding his collection. They're going to cover a variety of philosophies and tasks, and they're also going to be knives that maybe aren't the most typical knives that a person starting a knife collection would think of. So hopefully there will be something for everyone. Now I'm going to recommend 5 knives of a variety of styles with a variety of features. And so there's not really going to be an order in terms of superiority amongst these 5 knives, even though some of these knives are quite a bit more expensive than others. In general, though, the approach is going to be going from the smallest knife to the largest knife, and I'm going to, in addition to talking specs, describing how these knives will specifically suit an urban environment. The Sanrenmu 605 is the least likely candidate for a best of anything at first glance. This is a small Chinese-made knife that is available on Amazon for $10. But take a moment to look at the lines of this knife, and it might become obvious that this is a knife that has a ton of built-in utility. In the pocket, this knife truly disappears, and yet when it needs to be used, it deploys extremely easily thanks to a well-designed thumb stud. The liner lock allows you to open and close the knife very easily with one hand, and it seats in the pocket securely. The blade profile is reminiscent of classic Loveless design with a generous belly, and notably, there is a well-integrated double choil in the knife. The liner lock is a proven design, and you really don't need any form of more secure lock in this size of blade. Overall, it locks up without any kind of play and is very confidence-inspiring for its little size. This is thanks again probably to the double choil, which has 2 complementary design benefits. On the one hand, it's going to allow for more precise control and fine cutting tasks. You're going to basically be able to manage the knife with the whole use of your hand. Secondly, if in the event you had to use the knife for a harder use situation, quote unquote, you are going to be able to get a very firm and full grip on the knife. Now, this knife is not ideally suited to those kind of hard use tasks, but the possibility is just there, and that's the strength of design. Now, if you're listening closely, you'll notice that the D10 here is kind of stagey. It just isn't a very smooth, well-executed D10. This is probably just a result of the level of manufacturing that goes into this knife. Fortunately, this kind of slow opening situation is one where smoothness really isn't key, and if you make the maybe more natural choice of flicking the knife open, it flies open with ease and very consistently. The staginess of the D10 goes away with a little bit more force. Next up in size is a Spyderco Chaparral with a 2.812-inch blade. Spyderco Chaparral represents a lot of the highest levels of refinement in production knives today. This is really in contrast to the 605. We have a flawlessly executed lockback. We have a gorgeous satin finish, flat ground, leaf-shaped blade, a Spyderco trademark. On paper, the Chaparral is mundane compared to other Spydercos, but the incredible quality shows in the execution. Don't let the wire clip deceive you. This is a secure knife in the pocket, the most secure of the bunch. Deploying it, of course, is a piece of cake with the spider hole, and the lockback, thanks to its well thought out design, is very easy to use with one hand. The black wire clip also lends this knife to be subtly carried in a more formal situation. I think there's largely consensus among knife collectors that Taiwanese Spydercos are produced to the finest finishing standards in the industry as far as production knives goes, and this really shows in this beautiful blade. The carbon fiber G10 laminate handle is also very beautiful and formal. There's a dash of formality really throughout the whole knife, but to me the most beautiful part is the finely finished lockback. It is just stunning in person and is flawlessly smooth in its tolerances and in its finishing. One refreshingly common sense feature in the Chaparral is an extremely thin blade stock. This knife is an incredible slicer, much better than most folding knives of its size. To me, the only fair criticism against this knife objectively is that you can buy other USA-made knives for the same price or even less. The Spyderco Chaparral brilliantly unites form and function, showing that a beautiful, well-crafted, finely finished knife can also be totally functional. With our fourth example, we have the Great Eastern Cutler Tidioute 47 Viper, and this is an example of the incredible renaissance that's happening in traditional knives that I can only briefly touch on today, but I can't help but cover because it's frankly incredible. Just listen to the walk and talk of this beautiful knife. Just look at the lines of this swayback profile and you can see that there's something very special considering that this is a completely modern knife. Utilizing 1095 steel, it can get razor sharp, and it is really a pleasure to carry and use, making it a great candidate for EDC. Many collectors prefer carrying these traditional knives in a leather slip pocket. This allows the knife to be protected from other items in your pocket, as well as gives it a nice secure place in your pocket. Great Eastern Cutlery is almost single-handedly restoring the traditional knife world, and this is an excellent example of the level of beauty and refinement that you can get here. Just look at the brass liners in this beautiful knife, the perfect centering. Look at this gorgeous spring in the back of the knife. There's just so many things about traditional knives that are positively addicting. Philistinism is really the word that comes to mind to any knife collector who's not really willing to take a traditional knife seriously, because these have an incredible built-in utility. That Wharncliffe blade shape is going to allow you to do a lot of things. This traditional swayback profile is very ergonomic in the hands and really puts the knife in a ready position. This is a knife that can be easily used in almost all of your everyday carry tasks, and it's going to do it very well. It's a beautiful knife, beautifully executed, and of course, the walk and talk. The walk and talk of these traditional slip joints is something that needs to be heard and felt to be believed. It is truly a pleasure and a unique experience within the world of knives. Incredible variety of cover materials, blade steels, and even locks used in traditional knives these days is really engaging and enjoyable, and anyone who's serious about EDC knives deserves to give them a good look. Up next is the CRKT Swindle, an example of a state-of-the-art design from Ken Onion, and I think it will be TGV's favorite knife of the bunch if I will conjecture, because it's blending a fantastic traditional pattern, the swayback, which was also shown in the 47 Viper, with fantastic state-of-the-art technology, specifically the use of IKBS bearings, Iacoma Korath bearing system, named after Flavio Iacoma and Rick Lala, who designed it. It features an incredibly smooth and enjoyable flipping action. Flipping action is one of those things that's extremely overplayed in my opinion, and yet it really does come through in this example. It has generous ergonomics that allow you to choke up on the knife a little bit if necessary, and the very clean and refined Cutlery's integral lock or frame lock is excellent. Notably too is an innovation, this integrated pocket clip. This is a proprietary Ken Onion design, and the thing that's really neat about it is that it's completely reversible, or if you choose not to use the clip, it integrates very seamlessly into the rest of the shape of the knife, so it slips into your pocket like a traditional if you so choose. As you can see, the clip has a spring mechanism holding it to the rest of the frame of the knife, and that enables it to be very easily drawn out of the pocket. Of course, the flipper tab allows the knife to be deployed very quickly, and the way that the clip is integrated into the knife, it sits very flat in the back pocket, which to me is an ideal place to discreetly put a knife, for example, if you're wearing a jacket. This knife packs a big punch at around $30, and you can buy an upgraded version with a nicer steel. It's fair to say that Ken Onion's work with CRKT is a maturation of his time with Kershaw, and the Swindle represents an excellent embodiment of his eye for pure organic lines and the implementation of innovative features. Lastly, since we're talking urban knives, I thought it'd be reasonable to include a knife that could double as a self-defense tool as well as an EDC knife, and that's the Emerson Kershaw CQC 6K. This is a knife designed by Ernest Emerson and built by Kershaw, Kai USA in China. It's an incredible value at around $30, utilizing Emerson's proven design expertise as a defensive weapon in a EDC package. Of course, the main feature of this knife is the so-called Emerson Wave, a little tab at the top of the spine of the blade that allows the knife to be drawn out in a very rapid deployment. And this is going to be key, of course, in self-defense situations. All it does is snag on the edge of your pants and it just flies open. I really don't think there's a faster knife out there. Now, because the knife only engages when pulled out at a certain angle, it is possible to pull the knife out even quickly without engaging that Emerson Wave feature. However, if you want that feature engaged and you're used to using this knife, it comes out and it comes out fast, which I think is really going to be important in a self-defense situation. As brutal a blade this is compared to the other knives in this video, and it is indeed quite a bit heavier, it is a finely finished knife for the price. Notice, for example, the beautiful combination of stonewash and satin finishes on the blade. Of course, the frame lock and clip style are proven and reliable, and to me the only fault of this knife are all the goofy skulls, both on the blade and on the clip. So these are my 5 recommendations if I had to pick 5 for urban everyday carry knives. They really cover a variety of styles, tasks, and incorporate a variety of materials and price brackets as well. To me, you could get by with the Sanrenmu 605 for 99% of your average urban EDC stuff. But I would want a Spyderco Chaparral just for the beauty and level of refinement it brings, the kind of touch of class that a lot of sartorially minded urban people are going to care about. Other people might prefer the modernity and finesse of the CRKT Swindle, and I can understand that. Perhaps a more utilitarian need will be presented with the Emerson, or maybe you'll just prefer the tradition of the GEC 47. Of course, this was an incredibly cursory look at 5 of my top choice urban EDC knives, and there's a huge variety in any one of these brands as well as in other brands of excellent urban EDC knives, and I'd love to hear what your preferences are in the comments below. I'm actually going to be sending these knives to TGV at the Urban Gentry channel, so I highly encourage you to go check out his channel and subscribe and see what his reaction is going to be when he gets these knives in his hands himself. Thanks a lot for your time.